All right. Thank you for tuning in. This is the ManTalk Podcast, sponsored by Derek Brooks Next Level Coaching. I am excited. I hope that you are, and hope that you will enjoy this podcast. I got my good friend on here with me today, so we're going to have a lot of fun. Jon Kennon, for those who don't know Jon Kennon, he is a great guy, great friend. We've been knowing each other now for quite some time. I would say about at least 4 years. Would you say, Jon?
Yeah, pretty close to 4 years.
About 4 years. Jon is the co-owner, along with his beautiful wife, of I Realty Arkansas real estate brokerage, and who's really done a great job. Over 160 agents and 5 offices in Arkansas. Is that right, Jon? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 170, but
170.
We don't necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
6 offices now. We just opened Sheridan, so 6 offices.
6 offices. And how long have the company been in existence?
I Realty was originally started by 2 gentlemen in 2013, I believe. We came by it, and this is when I was still in another career. Kristen was begging the previous owners, hey, let me open a North Little Rock office. And then with her persistence on that, eventually one of them said, why don't you just buy my part out? And then the other one said, hey, me too. And then we just spent a few months negotiating, doing our due diligence. And in 2016, I believe it was September 1st to be exact, is when we took over the company.
Okay. So that's pretty impressive, man. And so I've been noticing that you've been knocking out a couple of home projects while we've been on this quarantine. I've seen that you did a little.
Yeah, I think everybody's in that same boat.
Little fireplace.
I'm sorry.
I said I seen you doing a little fireplace painting, and then just had some new granite installed. That was cool.
Well, we built a back porch.
Okay.
I'm building a house down the road from us. That's my first spec home, and I used my contractors, and we built an entire covered back porch on our house. And now we've had our granite tore out, and we're painting our cabinets. So we need, for Jon Kennon's pocketbook, we need this COVID to get healed real quick, because we're spending too much time at home, which I think every man is probably relating with the honeydew list and the rehab remodel stuff that's going on. Lowe's and Home Depot are probably the 2 most popular retail spots in the world right now.
Absolutely. What's funny about that, I was in Home Depot the other day, and I heard a gentleman say, this quarantine has cost him so much money. He was like, he'll be glad when it's over with. And he was speaking
Absolutely.
about all the honeydew projects that he was having to do at home, with the wife being at home and him being at home. So,
as a man, what do we say, Derek? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I got you. Got you covered. How's the family, man?
Man, family's good. It's and I want to prerequisite my statement by saying that my heart goes out to a lot of the frontline workers and restaurant workers and other people who've been out of work, the past 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Fortunately, real estate is something where we can work remotely from our laptops, phones, from our kitchen table, which is what Chris and I have been doing mostly. So that being said, I've kind of enjoyed the past 6 weeks, because I feel like for the past 10, 12 years, I've just been going hard all the time, and it doesn't feel like there's ever, like a mental break. And we've been able to take that time as a family. And I will say, I have 2 boys, Steele and Slater. They're 7 and 4 years old. So when they were home for a month there, it was difficult sometimes to get things done. We're doing a lot of Zoom meetings now, a lot of remote type meetings, and the little boys need some attention while we're on those phone calls and Zoom meetings. So, but other than that, my heart is really full. I mean, as full as it's ever been. I feel really blessed that we're in a position where we can continue to work almost as normal. Of course, the market's down on the listing side a little bit, but back to the family. I feel like Kristen and I's relationship is strengthened during this time.
Yep.
And the relationship with my boys, I have to appreciate the moment, because I don't think we'll ever have an opportunity as parents to say, you know what, I got to see my son at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. or have lunch with him or sit outside and throw rocks or whatever, in the middle of a work day.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like that forever, for very much longer, probably. So I
Absolutely.
think when possible, you have to appreciate the moment you're in.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. And I've been sharing with a lot of guys, take advantage of this time because, again, we work. Some of us work a lot, and so having this time to be at home with the kids during lunch, to be able to throw rocks during the middle of the day. I mean, that's priceless. And one day they will grow up and they won't be at home to throw rocks, and so. Taking advantage of this time is pretty cool. So let me ask you this: what's one of the things that you've learned since being quarantined as a man?
One thing I've learned since being quarantined as a man,
Learned about you.
Learned about myself. Man, that's a good question.
I know it's a tough question to answer because we don't think about it that way, and I'm sure if you had time to think about it, you could definitely come up with something.
Well, I mean, I will. Like, my quick answer is going back to what I said a minute ago, is that I look back at that last 10 to 12 years, and I don't know, I just kind of realize how hard I have worked, and I haven't taken the time to appreciate the small things in life. So it's just a little bit of time to reflect on where we are in the moment and what we've done to get here.
Yeah.
I don't think at the moment, I don't know if I have a groundbreaking thing I've learned about myself.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like to me you learned that time is valuable, especially with the boys.
Time is very valuable.
Yeah. So how's Rolly doing?
Rolly's good. Rolly needs a haircut. For those listening, Rolly is a 18-month-old. She was all black Labradoodle when we got her. She was the run of the litter. We wanted a smaller Labradoodle for allergy reasons. I'm a big dog kind of guy, or like a lab kind of guy, and Kristen wanted a lap dog, and I'm like, we're going to have to find something in the middle there. So we got the smallest golden doodle we could. And now she's got like gray hair and brown hair. And she's like kind of multicolored, still mostly black, but she's good. I'm getting to spend a lot more time and go on a lot more walks with her. And she's, the boys are getting better with her, spending more time with her. She's getting a lot more attention, but she needs a little haircut. I'm telling you.
Haircut. So if there's any more,
she can't, how golden doodles are. You can't even see her eyes right now. So I got her scheduled for Monday.
Okay. I was going to say, if there's any mobile groomers out there, we got somebody that could use your services during this, during this quarantine. So let's jump into, you are a part of the School of Man Leadership Group. I had the opportunity to attend one of those sessions with you, and I could tell you this, it was very impactful and very much needed. I was very impressed. So can you touch a little bit about on that, and tell the guys what that is, and if they want to be a part, how can they be a part of that?
Sure, yeah. So School of Man was the brainchild of Cole Rogers. He calls himself the founder and the lead follower, because as men we have to be able to follow to lead. We have to follow first before we can lead, and that's one of his core ideals. But he'd gone to California a few years ago and done something called Kokoro, which is basically a Navy SEAL Hell Week for civilians. And it's on the beach. It mimics a lot of what they do, and it's about 50 hours long. And he had a battle buddy, which is basically a partner with him during the whole 50 hours, where you kind of team up with one other guy. And that guy ended up actually passing away at the end of the event.
Wow.
He had a pre-existing heart condition, and it got exposed, and it was pretty traumatic on Cole. But he was determined to bring that ideal back to Arkansas, back to Little Rock with him when he came back, and carry on his name was Kurt, his story. So basically, School of Man is a men's leadership group, like you said, but it's aimed at making you the best version of yourself. You know, we always say there's another hill in life. Once you get on top of a hill, there's always another hill. So you got to keep pushing yourself, and we do it a lot through physical activity. So the people at our gym, they used to call us the crazies. We'd get in cold water. We jump in the Arkansas River sometime in February, but it's about putting yourself in very uncomfortable situations and positions, and then how do you react mentally to those situations? But it's geared towards being a better father, husband, employee, boss, whatever you in life, you know, be the best version of that. So that was 2017. We do classes. So I was part of class 001. We're the first ones. We kind of made it up as we went along with Cole. And now we're on class 6, you know, looking for guys to jump into class 7. I will say it's not for everybody. It's really hard. It pushes you to your limits. Derek got a taste of the leadership / emotional, mental part of it, which we do as well. It's very important. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to grow. We do it through a lot of physical activity, though.
Yeah.
So, any other questions?
No, man, I think it's great. You know, I was watching some of you guys' videos on Facebook, and yeah, it's pretty intense, man. You got to have your mind right. I mean, to be able to go through some of that, you know.
Yeah, you can look us up on Facebook, School of Man. I believe it's pretty easy to find publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Or look at me, Jon Kennon. You know, I'm on Facebook as well.
Yeah. So are you one of the founders or one of the people that like one of the first guys who brought this letter up?
My story was there was about 3 guys I knew I already worked out with in the CrossFit gym, and they came back like there's a 5 a.m. and a 6 a.m. class, and I was in the 6 a.m. class, and they came in about 6:30 with some kettlebells. They were dying, you know, like totally whooped. I'm like, what did y'all just go do? And they said, well, we took these kettlebells and these medicine balls, and we ran to the Capitol, which is 2 miles away, and we did 200 burpees on the steps, and then we ran back. You know, and it took about an hour and a half. I'm like, why would you do that? You know, and I was like, I don't even know why you did it, but it sounds like a really good challenge, a really good change of pace. And so that's when it all started. And so there's about 9 of us in that first class, and we adapted, we modified as we went. We scrapped things that didn't work and added things. And then ultimately in October, we had what's called the Crucible Challenge, which we have coming up next week for the new class, which was the culmination of the program, which is a lifetime. To me, it's basically a lifetime, but the culmination of your class, mine was 001, is a 55-hour all weekend grueling. I mean, I slept 1 hour during mine. It's not for the faint of heart, but it shows you that you can do more than you think you can do. And it's not just physical. You can do when you're completely spent, you've probably got 40% left, 50% left in you. You just got to tap those resources. And so that carries on to every part of your life. It just makes you, you know, once you go through it, you're like, okay, come on, what's next? You know, challenge, problem, difficult employee, whatever, you know you can handle it. You know there's a solution. You can find a solution.
So let me ask you, as a man, what made you determine that this is what you needed?
I think for School of Man in particular, a lot of guys come for vastly different reasons. Mine was just because I was curious. I'm always looking for that next thing. You know, can I do it? And then to me, it's like a lot of guys get out of high school and they stop doing anything. They stop reading books. They stop growing. They stop education. They stop physical activity. And, I mean, you might as well bury me at that point because, you know, the minute you stop growing, you're regressing. And so growth is my motivating factor for most things that I do. And School of Man, to me, seemed like an opportunity for growth. I will say that some guys, it's not growth. It's the prevention of death that brings them there. And I know that sounds like, whoa, what do you mean death? one of my very, very best friends and teammates in that class 1 had a terrible addiction problem since he was 14. And since the day he stepped in that first class, he has not used anything since then. His life, his marriage, his kids, his career is just, I'm so proud of him. It's off the charts. And if he hadn't have found something, to fill that void, to fill that gap, that addiction that's, constantly for people who battle with addiction, it's always there. This fills that void. So anytime he calls me, hey, let's go on a 6-mile run. All right, I'll be there. Tell me when. I'm going to be that support for him. So it's really cool in that aspect. And then another guy, I'll share one more story and then we can go on. But one thing we do is carry logs, and carrying logs is terrible.
Yeah,
it is the worst. I didn't get it, but it does build team. It builds mental toughness. But 2 of our guys were carrying logs back from the Capitol back to our HQ, and a guy was out on a run, and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" They're like, "Well, carrying a log. What's it look like?" And he goes, "Why?" And then I kind of told him. He goes, "Well, I want to do that." That guy was literally on his last run, and he had the gun on his bedroom in his hotel room ready to kill himself when he got back.
Wow.
And he saw the 2 guys carrying a log, and this is a powerful story. I mean, literally, he's still with us, and that, I mean, how impactful,
man.
How much more impactful can you be than a man?
Yeah.
He's so at his wit's end. He doesn't know what to do, that he's willing to make that sacrifice, or not sacrifice, a terrible decision. And saw a couple guys carrying a log and said, "Well, what's that all about?"
What's it all
Turned
about?
out to be a saving grace.
Yeah, and that's a powerful story, man. And I always like to tell guys, if you're thinking about ending your life, just talk to another guy. You'll find out that you're not the only one that's dealing with certain issues and these issues. And I believe that if men knew that they could talk to another man and hear his story, that we would find out we have something in common. So that's pretty powerful story to know that he was getting ready to end his life, and a log saved his life. A log. And then another big thing, and John, you probably would agree with this, or you will agree with this, it's accountability too. That definitely helps these guys pull through when they want to give up. Would you agree?
Very few people have enough self-discipline to continue what they started, whether it be physical or career or whatever. So having that accountability, and those people that are like, "Hey, what are you doing here? Get your shit together."
Yeah.
That's what we do to each other all the time.
So, which takes me right into our next conversation, and I chose you to talk about this because me knowing your story, and then me knowing the things that you've overcame, and I wanted to talk to you about fear, overcoming fear and taking risk. You've been able to do that. How have you been able to overcome fear and take risk as being a man? Like, what has been the pivot? What has been the motivation? What has been the courage to do that? Because we got a lot of men who are afraid to take risk. They've been locked into a career. They've been locked into doing something the same year after year, and it has become a cage. And now they want to get out of the cage and get into the jungle, but they're fearful and afraid to do so. What would you tell them?
So that's what I was going to start off with on this part with you, is that you and I sat down for lunch, and you used that analogy for me, which I was in this struggle at the time when you and I first talked about it, of what should I do? And you said, the cage in the jungle analogy. I'm like, that's it, man. I am in a cage. And so the real fear is staying in the cage. The jungle, it's scary, might be a tiger out there or whatever. There's unforeseen dangers in the jungle. But man, when you rather be alive, the real fear is regret. If you ever hear interviews with people on their deathbed, what do they say? Well, I wish wish I would have done that. I wish I would have spent more time with my kids. I wish I had fostered this relationship or that, or I wish I'd climbed Everest, whatever. So the fear for me was being on my deathbed one day and having all that regret or the wish I had have done these things. And so that's what I felt like I was doing. I was in a great situation. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, my situation with the company my father started, I worked with a lot of great people. I was secure. I provided a lot of security for my family. And the fear of leaving that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Kristen was all for it until it came down to it. And then she's like, well, hang on. Are we sure about this? It's done.
I've had those conversations.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's for me, the real fear was not taking action. And I got to a point, I believe I'm 39 now. And so I was probably 36 or 37. I had my first panic attack laying in bed one night where I didn't know what to do because I just saw myself at 40 or 50 and nothing had changed. And so it's like, you got to take control over your own situation and not let other people make decisions for you. And I overcame that by a lot of guidance from people worth getting guidance from. That's the key. So, don't go ask homeboy from, that you were in high school with or whatever. Not that I don't, and trust me, I've got those guys that I do consult with, but
sure,
you got to reach out beyond your own circle and reach out to successful people or people who have been in a similar situation to you and how they overcame it. So don't be afraid to consult with people who have actually been there and done that. They would love to help you and share their story and give you advice.
Yeah.
One
of the things that I've learned as being a man, the older I've gotten, is I cannot compartmentalize all of my friends into one group, because when you do that, it frustrates you. Because I would go to my homeboys and ask them business questions and they wouldn't be interested in that. Or I would go to my business friends and ask them a certain question and they wouldn't be interested in it. I would go to my church men group and ask those guys and they wouldn't be interested. And so that caused a lot of frustration. And then I realized that each one of these guys have to be put into a certain group. That way, if I have a business question, I have the business guys that I could go to. If I have a spiritual question or I need prayer or something like that, I can go to my prayer group of guys, and so on and so forth. And I think, alluding to what you just said, I think that's very important, because we tend to go back to the homeboys to ask them certain questions when they really not there to be able to give a good, solid answer. And a lot of times, being our friends, they're going to give us the easy answer and they're going to tell us what we want to hear. And that's not good for us as men. And that's why we're seeking to get answers to those questions. So totally agree with that.
Yeah, that goes back to that growth mindset I was talking about earlier, where everything I do is pretty much oriented to growing me as an individual. Man, you're not going to do that talking to the same people over and over again or talking to people necessarily from your past. So it's a little bit of a fear to go out and reach out to somebody who you might see as a superior or somebody who's, more qualified or has accomplished more than you. It's intimidating to go to those people, but I think those are the people you really need to seek counsel from.
Yeah.
And I think 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, they would love to help you and give you advice.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're probably not the right person,
and that's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. Move on.
Okay. Yeah. And I had to learn that. Instead of getting frustrated with them, I had to learn that that's okay. They're not there to be able to even answer that question. And so I think it's important that we surround ourselves with people where we're trying to go. I've always used that, if I'm trying to get somewhere in life as a man or as a businessman, then I need to associate myself with those type of people, those type of men, so I can learn from them and sort of use them as a stepping stone, to learn from them, to learn from their mistakes. What would you say your biggest risk in life has been?
I feel like thus far in my limited experience, I feel like I'm leaving it. I'm living it right now. Is leaving that comfort and that stability, and what I thought was going to be my career for a long time. Uh, that's I mean 100% my biggest risk, because now running a company, and then we have to go kill what we eat every day. We have a lot of people depending on us to make a really good situation for their work, right? And so
absolutely.
there's a lot of families that depend on Kristen and I, and of course you and all the other people in Irealty in the leadership positions that have influence on where the company goes. And so that's scary, man. Like a lot of mouths to feed involved in that.
Yeah.
It's risky, but you don't get the reward without the risk. I know it's a cliche, but got to get in the jungle, got to go kill something,
Every day you got to be prepared to kill. You got to be prepared to kill.
And I know that something catastrophic could happen at any time to uproot our situation. And am I prepared for it? I mean, I don't know how to answer that, but mentally, I think I can handle whatever situation comes, because, like, back to Kristen and I's story, like, really, if you have that partner and that love, I would rather have that situation and live in a cardboard box than live in a mansion without love, without family. So I don't know. I mean, if I had to, I could go do something else. I'm prepared mentally to go do something else if I need to, but ideally we could keep this thing going and grow it, make a great situation for a lot of people.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And with that, the coronavirus, how are you able to keep your family from being fearful of this pandemic as the man of the house?
Try to live life as normal as possible. I mean, we do as much as we can to practice social distancing. We definitely don't want to be the cause for somebody to catch this virus. Fortunately, for my kids, I guess, my 7-year-old, he's pretty sharp, but he hasn't let it affect him. And my 4-year-old is just like, oh, when's the virus going away? That's all. When's that virus going to be gone? He just goes off and plays anyway. So he is not affected in the least.
Yeah.
But Kristen and I, we share that mindset, like we don't have a fearful mindset. We have an abundance mindset. We don't watch the news, either one of us, like, at all. Any news I get is from Twitter. I know that may not be the best news source, but it just comes across, it states some facts. I read the facts of the situation and then I move on. I don't get
140 characters or less.
Yeah, somebody else's twisted political, whatever side of political fence, somebody's going to twist the narrative a little bit. So if you watch the news, we kind of stay away from the negativity, and then we just try to stay positive as a family.
I got you.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Again, I've shared on the Facebook ManTalk page that we as men in our family, we are the captains of the ship. And so whenever there's a crisis, national, local, state, whatever, our families normally, they look to us to lead and guide them. And I tell men all the time, if you're panicking, then the family will panic. Everybody will follow what you're doing, and so it's very important. It's very important that we as men have a level head, know what's going on, but not get engrossed with all the media and all the just the hoopla of it.
100%. I'm not trying to go out there and get anybody sick, but at the same time, life must go on, and, just remain calm and stable and secure. And I think that'll pass to the people around you, which is, in this situation, immediately your family. And fortunately, I have Kristen, who has the same mindset. So our family has not been in that fearful, panicky mindset thus far. And, hopefully we've seen the worst of it, or we're in the worst of it now, and society can start to get back to work and get back to normal soon.
Yeah. So if you had to tell us about a book that we could read, one of your favorite books, what would it be?
Man, so there's probably a few different categories. One of my growth things is to try to, and I'll admit I don't read books like physically anymore. I listen to them on Audible. So first piece of advice, get an Audible account. It's $13 a month.
Absolutely.
You're in the car, stop listening to music, stop listening to trash or news or whatever. Educate yourself while you're in the car. Listen to podcasts with smart people, listen to books. So that being said, I try to listen to 2 a month, if not more. And some that stick out to me are, biographies or autobiographies about successful leaders in our society or businessmen, such as Ben Franklin, or Elon Musk, or one of my favorite is Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. Is a great book. It's 26 hours on audio. Another trick, another Kennon tip is train your brain to listen to higher speeds on Audible, so you can listen to it twice as fast.
I think I'm only about 4 hours into that book.
Which one? Steve Jobs?
Yeah.
It's a long one, man, but it's worth it. But my recommendation is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, and his story.
Great book.
Because he totally bootstrapped that company with nothing. I mean, if you don't know the story, it's fascinating. Everybody knows who Nike is, and they're in Oregon, and Phil Knight's the owner. But if you don't know where he came from, that guy didn't take a paycheck, a dollar, for 8 years when he started that company.
That's major.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. And now he's worth $35 billion. So, I mean, my point is the guy paid his dues, and he tells you very clearly everything he did. And he paid people in sales along the way a lot of money to sell his product and get the name out there. So, his philosophy was like, he believed so much in what he was doing, he willed it into existence. And he worked another job to pay the bills. And then one day that stock went public, and he's worth $130 million overnight. And he's still the same guy. So Shoe Dog, I won't talk more about the book, but Shoe Dog, Phil Knight's story, leadership book. I like Simon Sinek a lot.
Okay.
So Leaders Eat Last is my favorite of his books. He's got 3 or 4 books out there, but that's my favorite. The premise behind that would be that military leaders let all their troops eat, get clothed, get sleep before they do. Because as a leader, your guys have to be there first, or what happens, you're going to die anyway. So you got to take care of your people first. And that's what Phil did. I mean, both those books just show you, take care of people first, let them eat first, take care of your troops, sacrifice, bootstrap, and then hopefully, maybe not, your reward will come one day.
Yeah. And that's a great thing. I don't think anyone has worked long periods of time and not seen something that they've been working on come to pass. So you just got to be willing to put the work in. What would you tell a guy? What would you tell a man who's just starting out in business? What advice would you give him? He's got his nerves up. He's now getting ready to jump and take the risk. What would you tell him?
You better be committed, buddy. You better be committed. You better be prepared to work, and you better be prepared to go through a little bit of challenges. One quote I like to steal from my friend Ken Clark, and I'm not sure if he stole it from anybody or not, but his answer to this question is, take whatever your revenue projections are and cut them in half on this business plan, and then take whatever expense level you have and double it. And if it still works, it's a good idea. And a lot of ideas are not going to work with that financial model, but it's a good exercise to go through.
Sure.
But be prepared, when you start an organization, a company, even if it's just one man, it's all on you, and the responsibility, the blame, the reward, the good, the bad, ultimately it falls on you on the success. So you got to be committed. You better be ready.
Okay.
But it gives you, I think it's a very rewarding thing. And like I said, working for somebody else, you feel trapped, you feel in the cage. Is, starting a business is a way out of the cage.
It's a starting point.
Starting point for sure.
But the work is just beginning.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You better be on call. Whatever it is, you better be on call. You better be ready.
You better be all in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you say it's important to have that talk with the family? If you're a man and you have family members or you have a wife and children, would you say it's important to have that conversation with them before jumping, or would you say just go ahead and dive in and let the family find out at the end?
So, obviously, the answer to this. You're talking about the buy-in. You don't have the buy-in, I probably wouldn't do it. Like, if you got a spouse or somebody important to you in that household, mm-hmm. and they're not bought in and committed to what you're doing as well, you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're not only fighting to make this business work, you're gonna be in fights at home. So you better know your why really well. That's another Simon Sinek theory. Start with why. Yeah. You find a why. Find a why, and then convey that message and get the buy-in from your spouse, man or woman. So 100% get the buy-in, or don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be a nightmare. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not. And you need that spousal support and that family support, because it's going to be hard. It's going to be long nights, long days. No conversations with friends and close family, no outgoing, no partying and things of that nature, because a lot of times when we start off in a business, it's, straight grind mode, and mm-hmm. something has to be cut off, for you to be successful. So
I will piggyback that into a conversation I had this morning, and there's a guy I really respect. He's an attorney and an accountant, owns a lot of commercial real estate, very successful businessman in town, probably one of the most. And he said his goal when he was young, we were talking about reflecting, and this just happened this morning. It's fortunate that we had, this recording today right after I had this conversation. But we were talking about take yourself back to your 16 to 20-year-old self, and what do you look like when you're your age now? And did you accomplish what you thought you would? Are you where you thought you would be? Relational, money, all these goals you have. He said his big 3 goals were always to have a perfect balance between a good father, a good husband, and a good businessman. And if you step out of line on any of those 3, if those are your goals, which they are mine, they are those 3. I never defined it that way, but that's how I live my life. That the business and the time I apply cannot override my relationship with my sons or my wife. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have those, you got nothing. And it's not to say don't be ambitious. We're ambitious guys. That's built in our DNA. We want to win. We want to succeed. But you got to learn to rope it in too, and learn where your priorities are. And for me, that's my kids and my wife. So.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the original question was, but I wanted to point that out because it was fresh on my mind.
Well, it fit right in. So, best advice you've been given as a man?
I think I've been thinking about this question, and obviously we get a lot of advice from a lot of situations. So I think the 2 parts on that. One would be lead by example. And I say that because my dad did lead by example. He always made the right choices for our family. He worked super hard. He still does. He always had manners. He always treated people well. You know what I mean? He just, he led by example. So I would say, because he did that, and we all look to our fathers, if our fathers are in our life, to be that guiding light. And so I watched him, and this is another piece of advice for men: your kids are watching you, so keep that in mind. Because I watched him, and I didn't consciously take notes as I was growing up, and then you reflect back on how did he act? What decisions did he make? How did he talk? How did he treat people? And so, because he did lead by example, I would say that's the best advice I've ever got. And then, currently I think there's a theme where we're trying to be more vulnerable as men. It's not be soft or weak, but like we said at the beginning of the podcast, we don't have an outlet to express these things we're going through as men. We're afraid to put that out there because it seems like we're soft or we're weak, but that's not true.
Right.
I think the opposite is true. I think when you hold it in, that's being soft and weak because you're not allowing yourself to grow. You're not seeking advice from people.
Yeah.
So yeah, be vulnerable, lead by example.
Cool. Favorite quote? You've quoted one during the session. Do you have another one? Another favorite quote?
I got a few. One is attributed to Einstein, but I'm not sure if he actually said it. But it says, everybody is a genius. But if you ask a fish to climb a tree, he'll feel like an idiot his entire life. And so we all have something we're talented or good at. And a lot of times people try to fit us into a box and then complain when we're not doing what they want us to do or we're not doing it right. Well, we shouldn't have been doing that thing anyway. So it's about finding your place in the world. So that quote has always stuck out to me.
Gotcha.
Another good one, and this is probably just because of School of Man and the mental aspect, is the old Mike Tyson quote, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Punched in the face.
What are you going to do when you get punched in the face? You got to react.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's a true one. The face or the gut. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to be punched by Mike Tyson, even 55-year-old Mike Tyson.
Right.
That guy was throwing some haymakers on Twitter the other day.
I did too. I seen that.
The scariest man of all time.
Hey, the trainer even had to take a break. I mean, he was punching so hard. The trainer had to. He had just walked off. I was like,
yeah. Another one is not necessarily a quote. It's a song lyric from the Beatles. And I'm not a Beatle freak, but my dad was, so I know like all their songs because he played it on repeat for 14 years of my life. But there's an obscure song called Inner Light, and it goes something like, without going out my own door, I can know all things on earth. Without looking out my window, I can know the ways to heaven.
Wow.
The further one travel, the less one knows. So that is so impactful for me because a lot of people stay in their same safety circle of people who are going to tell them they're doing good, like we talked about earlier, and not step out, not go travel, not try to understand other people's cultures or point of views or experiences. And we all, as men, women, children, we all have a unique set of experiences and circumstances that led us to where we are now. And it's very important to appreciate how everybody got to where they are. And just by asking a couple of questions and understanding where somebody's coming from, we could probably stop a lot of hate and violence and all the things and, the political division that we have. So seek out knowledge, seek out other people's point of views, travel to other countries if you can. That's a goal that I'll have in my future. I haven't done a great job with that, but, stop and ask questions. Just try to understand people. And there's some people you don't want to understand. Avoid them. Avoid the negativity.
Yeah. I mean, all great stuff you just said, and I'm always saying that the more you get out, the more you stay open-minded, the better person you become. And when we diverse and when we bring other people into our world, we learn from different people. It just makes you a better person. It makes you
Absolutely.
And that makes you a better person overall. So what's next for Jon Kennon? I know it's one of your favorite questions.
I know. That is a tough question. I mean, but I feel like we're on a good path, and what's next is I want to be a resource for people in the future, and I don't feel like for some people I am there where I can help them on their journey, but ultimately what I'd like to get to is a resource that when somebody has an idea that I can help them achieve that goal or bring that idea to fruition or hook them up, be a connector with somebody else that can help them. So, I just don't think there's anything more gratifying for me to when somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I got this idea. I don't know how to get off the ground." I'm like, you know what? I know Billy over there is a perfect fit for you, and I can just hook them up, or I can invest in their idea or whatever. But just to continue to build what we're doing to where eventually my full-time job, so to say, would just be helping people achieve their dreams. And actually, that's what I tell my 7-year-old still. He's like, "What do you do to make money?" I said, "I just help people get what they want." He's like, "What does that mean?" But that's what we do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What we do. That's a success.
That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But yes, that's what we do. Absolutely.
That's what we do, right? Okay, that's what we try to do. We're not angels either. We're not perfect. We fail. We have desires and motivations that probably aren't completely altruistic all the time. But as a general rule, that's what our mode of operation should be.
Yeah.
And that goes to another quote. I think that's a Zig Ziglar quote. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, which leads me to our last thing, and it's something that I like to do, and it's called the one-word game. I did make you aware of it. I just didn't tell you what the one words were. So
yeah, I'm a little scared, but let's go.
Legacy.
Legacy. Okay. You want like a one-word response? I'm already breaking the rules.
Yeah. I mean, what does it mean to you when you hear the word legacy? What's the first thing come to mind?
Who did you impact in your life in a positive way? That's your legacy. How, what kind of father were you? How did you raise your kids?
Manhood.
How did you positively affect the world when you're gone? That's legacy.
Manhood.
I go back to vulnerability.
That's a good one. That is a good one. That's a good one. The other word, fear.
We've all got it. Even that guy you think that doesn't have it has it. Promise you. Can't let it consume your life. A lot of times that thing that puts fear in your heart and your brain, that you can't sleep, you have anxiety, you have weird dreams about it because the scenarios run over and over in your head. I do it all the time. When you have that feeling, that fear, it probably means you're doing the right thing, because what's on the other side of fear is growth, 100%, plain and simple. Whether you fail or whether you succeed, you're going to learn something about yourself and you're going to grow.
Yeah.
So run towards it.
I think that's awesome. I think what stood out to me though was we all have it. And I think men fail to realize that every person that has a heartbeat, that's a man and a woman, but we're just talking about men, we all have that fear. And what separates us or what makes us different is how we handle it, and how do we conquer it, and then how do we approach it, and how do we win from it.
A lot of emotions come from fear. And a bad employee, for instance, is acting out. He's afraid. He's not secure. There's something in his life that's causing this fear. So when you have the fear, try to take a look deeper in yourself and think, what is causing that fear? What is the emotion behind it? Is it are you scared? Is it anxiety? Whatever emotion you have in your head, that it probably comes out as fear. It probably comes out as anger. Our fear actually manifests itself as anger, and that's the last thing you want to do is come from a place of fear.
So that's good stuff. Jon, I appreciate you, brother. This has been phenomenal. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to be a part of this podcast, man.
I appreciate you doing this and having me on here. I feel absolutely honored. That. I think the world of you, and I love what you're doing, and appreciate you being a voice for men. I really do.
Yes, sir. Well, until next time, Jon, I'll see you around. And again, thank you for tuning in.
All right. Thanks, guys.